Greetings, everyone. It is 11 a.m. We are ready to lock and load here with top trades. It's possible 11 is a little bit better of a time. We're going to find out. Hold on one second. I got to make sure I got everything muted up here on my end. The technology's working though. Gunnar, let's do a quick little sound check. How's everything going?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfect. All right. Well, as you can see, and I appreciate everyone tuning in, we're at 11 o'clock again. We tried the 10 a.m. We thought it was going to be a great idea, and it turns out it was harder. We had less people. We had some people that would rather have it at 11. And from for Gunner's paid publication, The Trading Desk, it was just a little bit too tight with chat, especially Tuesdays. A lot of times they are a trading day.
Yeah.
You let the market set up on Monday. Tuesday, you really get a direction. You might act on a trade. And that trade, getting it in between 9:30 and 10, it was a little bit too much hustle and bustle. So this way, we get an hour and a half after the market open. We're back at 11. We're going to butt up against the lunch again. So we're probably going to just talk about a bunch of fast food and bowl companies at some point in time. But not today. As you can see, everyone at home, right? If you're on YouTube right now, go ahead, give us a like, give us a comment. If you've got any questions, tickers, comments, go ahead and do it. As you can see, I'm back. You guys lucked out for at least 3 weeks. You had Enrique on the call with Gunner. I was tuning into those calls and they were amazing. A lot of knowledge drop, a lot of good tickers, a lot of things that were timely that was working out. So Enrique and Gunnar, it's like a great trade, both great traders, and then Enrique is like a certified genius. Now it's the other side of the coin. You get the dumb money's coming in, and I'm back and I'm loaded. Without being on top trades for like 3 weeks, I'm loaded with tickers. That's coming later. Gunnar, give us a quick rundown. You've got a little list. Give us a quick rundown of what you want to cover on today's call. We'll do that, the agenda that way, and then I'll let you kick it off and we'll start diving into charts and what you're saying.
Well, that was a hell of a setup so far. I mean, so you're saying we have a list of like 500 tickers, but zero geniuses on the call to go through them. Is that the problem?
Welcome to the internet. Welcome to YouTube.
I think we got a lot to talk about today. We weren't here last week, obviously, and I know the market has been consolidating here near its highs, but there's been a lot going on under the surface. We have China going absolutely crazy to the upside and then going on vacation and then a little bit of crashy action today once they're back trading on the mainland there. We got the big jobs report from last week, which was uh, I think huge in kind of once again kind of propping up the idea that the Fed isn't really that far behind, and good news is good news again, and all that good stuff. So we have some good feelings from that. We have some tech growth stuff kind of sneaking into the picture here and starting to trend higher. While at the very same time, it feels like we're having some fear creeping into the broader market with everything going on in the Middle East. There's been severe weather happening. We have a huge oil spike followed by it turning south today. Metals are way down today. So all of these big snapback moves from what's happening in Asia, what's happening in commodities, metals, uh, crude, energy, big resets, and everybody's piling back into things like Nvidia. I don't know if you've heard of that stock, but Nvidia is breaking out this week. So I think it's just a little bit of shuffling some of that October surprise action. Maybe this isn't the surprise yet, but I wouldn't count out some additional fear creeping in here before we really get into melt up season, especially with the election approaching, which
That's the
I
only other thing I was going to say. I do bring a little bit more of that to the table as well. We have seen some fireworks in the last 48 hours, at least. And I understand me and Gunnar sort of went back and forth on this one earlier today in the office. What I'm saying is, like polls in general, election polls, you can't really trust them. And then poly market is sort of like the crypto betting market. That you probably can't trust as well, but I still account for it. And the poly market odds in the last 48 hours have made a severe turn. If anyone wasn't seeing this, and we've been around the office guessing as to what it is, but Kamala was in the lead for a while. Like at some point in time, she went up like, 52%, and then Trump was 48%. And then they just sort of went 50-50, 49-49, whatever. All of a sudden, yesterday, Trump flipped to like 54%. So it went 54, and that's an outlier for the last few weeks. So something's happening. And again, there's all sorts of things going on. And I do think the market might be adjusting for something going on here. I think it might just be a matter of like, maybe there's some disaster setting up. We had a disaster in Asheville. You've got another hurricane coming. You've got Kamala being in some more interviews. Like maybe there's just some negativity now on that side of the coin. And people are starting to say we think Trump is just going to win because America is like they just don't like the last 4 years. And then Biden, all sorts of weird clips with him. So the whole thing just seems weird. So there is a political element shaping up here, and we know that's going to be huge in the next 4 weeks. So maybe the Trump trade is setting back up. I don't know. We'd have to look back on the charts, Gunner, and we can maybe do this for next week or the following. But like back when Trump won the debate and then first assassination attempt,
Yeah.
The markets loved it.
Yeah.
Tech went up, a lot of things went up.
Yeah.
So I think it was the certainty that like, oh, Trump's going to win because he was against Biden at that point. They're like, oh, Trump's definitely going to win. I think the markets might be heading a little bit that direction. So big political stuff and all the other topics that Gunner covered. So Gunner, take us where you want. What are you seeing this morning? What charts should we be looking at? And where are we heading with top trades?
Well, before I think I can play a little bit of macro Matt with you on that. I think there is some validity to what you're saying there, and I think that something like Polymarket's probably going to be faster than the polls. So maybe there is some sort of change happening that's not reflected in the polls yet, but it's reflected in the betting markets. I think that's possible. I don't really look at that stuff very much. I have seen on Twitter and some other places that it's pretty close. I don't think it's like at a point where we could definitely call it yet. I mean, back during the Biden debate and the assassination attempt, I feel like it felt very foregone conclusion that like this is Trump's election to lose.
Yeah.
At that point, before they switcherooed it with Kamala. So I mean, that's just the way I'm thinking about it. I think the main outlier here is the fact that I don't think right now the market hates either of the candidates, if that makes any sense. It certainly feels like the market is okay with whoever is elected. That could be very different in November. I mean, it's a long time. I know it's not a long time, but it's a long time. Right now we have about a month for the market to decide how it feels about it. And if you remember back to when Trump was first elected, which no one was really expecting in the mainstream, and the Dow cratered once that was announced. I mean, it finished in the green the next day, but there was some serious uncertainty that the market sort of had to work out its angst about. And I think the market's been doing that over the past few months. But Kamala is racing toward the center, at least in that she's talking the talk. And I think that's what the market wants to hear. The market wants to hear her talk up that like, we're not going to do anything crazy with taxes. We're not going to do anything crazy with crypto, that sort of thing. And then the market just becomes kind of okay with whatever the result happens to be. And I think we're maybe sort of like sloshing along in that era. So I'm not really super concerned from a market standpoint as to who is going to come out on top here. I mean, we could be in a situation, and Enrique and I talked about this in the very little politics that we talked about last time around, is we could be in a situation where we don't know who the winner is for weeks. I mean, it could be too close to call for a while. And I think the market really doesn't care much about that either, at least not in the moment. That could all change. But right now, I think the market's focused on other things, focused on some of the crazier action in energy in China and some of these other places. I think we have some new trades that are trying to jockey for position and sort of percolate up, from from some of these bigger drawdowns that we've experienced so far this year. But I mean, yeah, there's a lot going on, and I think that like if we can get through these next several weeks of October, then we could be setting up for some melt up action, kind of maybe similar to what we saw last year. I don't know what that means for 2025, but I think like toward the end of the year, we're starting to see signs that like, hey, some of the growth stocks are starting to perk up and they're starting to look a lot better. The semiconductors have worked through this consolidation right here, and we have Nvidia breaking out. I mean, that's a big deal. I
Yeah,
know it's
don't
not like
don't mess with the semis. That's been the theme.
I know that it's not like front page news every day. Like every time I walk by muted CNBC, they don't seem to be talking about
Hurricane. They got
yeah,
hurricane.
they're talking about the weather, they're talking about China, they're talking about other stuff. And I think that's probably good for the semiconductor bulls out there, get some of that oversaturation of Nvidia news off of our screens and just let the stock kind of do its thing. And plus, we have earnings coming up too. Almost every single stock that I'm looking at right now, I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I want to trade that. We have 2 weeks or 3 weeks until earnings start kicking off, and we're going to be in the heat of like, possibly some big earnings movers, and who knows what kind of numbers that the semis are going to, be sharing with us. So yeah, I mean, I think we're in an interesting spot right here. The only thing I'm super concerned about at the moment is just maybe we get some sort of like, uh, some sort of, I don't want to say scary, but a little bit of fear creeping in that gives us a bit of a shakeout as we sort of mark time along here. And here's SPY. Here's the S&P. You know,
Hmm.
we're perched up here right by all-time highs, and yet it really doesn't feel like it. Like, I don't know how you feel about it, Matt, but I don't feel like there's a lot of euphoria out there with the market being perched where it is right now. You would think that people would be a lot more bulled up, and instead, I feel like we have this September hangover where, like we had this unseasonally strong September where we had endured all of these crappy September performances over the past 4 years. Then all of a sudden, stocks are way up in September, and everybody's just sort of standing there. Now that the calendar's flipped to October, we're in the fourth quarter, and nobody knows what to do. Stocks look so
Yeah.
good, and yet now we're sitting up here just sort of marking time. We had a little bit of a hiccup yesterday, but I don't think anyone's getting super bowled up right here and feels like, yeah, we're totally going to rip to the end of the year. I think everybody's in hurry up and wait mode right now. And we can see this, across, several areas of the market. I know China's been in the news and that huge China rally and stimulus and all that stuff. If we look at FXI, you can see this monster move right here. And
Wow.
market reopens today. I mean, this is Monday right here, and then look what happens when the market reopens in China. Big reset, down almost 9% on the China large caps. This is the type of reset I would expect, though, after such a crazy move. I mean, you can see. Look at the big green volume bars. Look at this shot straight up from 25 to 37 right here. This is just a couple weeks. This is no time at all where this thing really just started taking off with the surprise stimulus announcements. And now we're getting to the point where, all right, maybe we got to go and fill some of these gaps. Maybe some of these stocks have to retrace. I would consider this pretty normal behavior for such a strong, straight up move. Stocks can only move straight up for a certain amount of time before they start, experiencing a little bit of turbulence. You're rarely going to see a move like this that doesn't have some gut checks along the way where, some of the weak hands are going to get shaken out. It can't be that easy. That's the job of the market. It's to make sure that, if you think you're going to ride this, it's going to make sure somewhere along the way that it's going to test your patience. And I think this is one of those moments. I'm not saying that it's going to go straight back up tomorrow, but at the same time, this is not a super surprising move to me, regardless of what's happening in the news. If we look at some of the individual names, it's kind of the same story, but they're holding up relatively well. I mean, yeah, Alibaba is down, what, 6% and change so far today, but it's down to where it was trading October 1st. I mean, hardly a bloodbath unless you were really chasing it up here into nosebleed seats. So I don't think we should just look at a day like today where China is back from holiday and say like, okay, like that's it. This is over. And FXI, Alibaba, all the big China names, which have done nothing, by the way, for a long time, are just going to, reset and drop back down here back into their old trading ranges and it's all over. I don't think that's the case. I mean, it could happen, but I don't think that's going to be the case with trades like this. I think these are just gut check moments, and it's part of the toll that you pay to ride a trend that's this sharp at the moment. That's how I look at these type of moves. And then meanwhile, on the other side of the spectrum, back to U.S. mega cap tech names and the stocks that were propelling this market higher during the first half of the year, we're starting to see them begin to retake leadership roles again. And it's still early in October. That's what's surprising to me about this. You can see SMH. This is the VanEck Semiconductor ETF right here. You can see it firming up right here before our eyes. It had a couple visits down here to the 200-day moving average. That's the little blue line right there. Caught buyers there perfectly every single time. It doesn't get much more textbook than that. It usually doesn't look that pretty. But there we go. That's what we have right here. And it's back above 250 this morning. This area right here, if it can clear it, you know, I don't think it's going to go straight up and clear it. It might, because these are the semis right here. But if it can clear this and get above like 255, 256, I think a retest of those summer highs right there from July or a foregone conclusion. I think we just start ripping higher. And we're already starting to see people pile back into these names after forgetting about them for a long time. I don't know if you remember this stock, Matt, Super Microcomputer.
There it is. The only part I don't like about it is they split. It's the same thing with Nvidia.
Yeah.
We watched that stock so heavily since, you know, the beginning of the year, and I know all the price points when they didn't do the stock split. So that's the only thing that bothers me.
Just got to add
I
a
have
zero.
to do a bunch of math on that one now. But
Add
yeah,
a
the
zero.
chart's looking a little bottomy.
Well, I mean, it's trying right here. I mean, we had basically, I would consider this, you know, a total give back of this.
Yep, that's a round tripper.
Rip higher. That's a round tripper right there. You know, we got Rocky Mountains here, and then you know, it ran into some bad press, and some shorts were after it for a while. But yesterday, it popped like 16%. It's down today. But it feels like it's trying to get its legs back. I don't know if this one's going to survive or not, but like the speculators are starting to poke at these stocks to see which ones are going to go. AMD, I feel like everybody's talking about this one. It was also a round tripper, and it's firmed up quite nicely. Right here, it had to retreat all the way back down here below 130. Gave us that nice post-earnings fake out right there, and it's approaching earnings. I feel like all of these stocks are announcing right before Halloween. They're all announcing like October 30th. This one's announcing the 29th. But it's really got its legs back. It busted back above the 200-day like decisively for the first time since July. It retested it, and now it's shooting higher. It's up for what, the 5th straight day. It might be a little extended here in the short term, but that's a nice looking chart. And it does feel like, you know, this is going to start to catch and really push higher right here. I don't know if it's going to be a big market leader, but at the same time, I think that looks really good. And then the granddaddy of them all, Nvidia. I mean, look at that. Those are just old lines I had on this chart, just talking about how we were going to get a move one way or the other at some point. I figured, because we were getting close to, like, you know, the apex of this pattern. It was either going to be a breakout or a breakdown. It looks like it's going to be a breakout. We're already back above those August highs right there, and all-time highs are not far away. We're talking like 139-ish, 140. It'll be all-time highs again. And it's doing so rather quietly. I mean, maybe I'm off on that, Matt, but have you heard a lot of rumblings about Nvidia? I really haven't lately. Not as quiet as gold, but it's been a pretty quiet move. You know, because I think this is a pretty obvious breakout that a lot of armchair traders should be noticing right now, and what was the most watched stock of the first half of the year. So, I mean,
yeah, no round tripper for this one,
yeah.
and just looking strong. I think they've got deep followers, and they are, out of all the semis, they're the real deal when it comes to like, what are they actually selling? The real question is, can they keep this advantage? No one is questioning whether they have the advantage in cash flow and orders and all that stuff. They haven't. So chart's showing it. Again, this is something, you said this months ago at this point, but these are just charts. You don't want to mess with this. You don't want to ever say, "Oh, Nvidia is just going to go down. It's over. It's a bubble." These
Yeah.
these are these are names that could keep. It's the same thing with SMCI. SMCI did do a round trip. That one could roar right back too. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a crazy marketplace out there for
But yeah, I
semis.
think you're right. Fundamentally, I think Nvidia is in a much better place than like SMCI. And I think there are some like legit accounting questions about SMCI that might kind of dog it for a while. I'm not really sure. But at the same time, I mean, like you can't ignore how much better this chart looks right here. And we're talking about, I would say this is a pretty sizable company.
Yeah, scroll down to that market cap. Let's just get us a little bit.
3.25 trillion, no big deal. So, I mean, obviously, this stock can move the cap weighted averages. It can move the Nasdaq, and
We
it
only
has.
need, when you put it this way, for all my macro people out there, if we just had 10 NVIDIAs, we could pay off the national debt.
There you
When you
go.
put it that way, it doesn't seem that the national debt, 35 trillion, doesn't even seem that expensive.
Why doesn't Nvidia become the Federal Reserve and just start issuing its own currency to help pay it off? Is
Yeah,
that
they did.
possible? Can we
They
do
issued their currency. They're called H100s.
that?
They're expensive, dude. Oh
Well,
man.
look,
Well,
we have Jensen talking today. Apparently, there's this little blurb right up here. Insane demand for Blackwell processors as AI startups secure funding to purchase Nvidia products. It feels like no matter how hard they try, no one can really catch up to the fundamentals of Nvidia. Like everybody's been behind the curve, which is why the stock has gone up so much. It's because it just keeps on crushing everybody's estimates, and everybody goes back to their scrap piece of paper and tries to figure it out again. And then the analysts come back and say, "Well, they're going to make this," and they just blow that out of the water too. That'll end eventually, but I'm surprised at how long it's gone on now, and it seems like this insatiable demand is still the big story, and no one has really wrapped their mind around it.
yep, I agree.
So that's my fundamental foray right there. I won't get much
I
deeper.
liked it. You lured me in well. I like the fundamentals.
But I mean, it's not just these semiconductor stocks either. Like I said, like there's a lot going on in this market. If we look at software, like this is a software ETF, IGV right here. Those are new highs. SMH isn't posting new highs. IGV is.
Yeah.
These big software names are taking off, and they're dragging up some of the tech growth names with it. I mean, the clue here, and I know we didn't talk last week on the call, but last week when the market was kind of struggling, I was running screens, and usually on weeks, if we're in a bull market, on weeks where the market's struggling, I like to run screens that look for stocks that are up on the week and are outperforming everything else, because I want to find what the leaders of the next rally higher could look like. And the names that were popping up on my screens last week, I mean, I had the usual suspects, a lot of energy stuff popping up. But there were a ton of these like forgotten-ish. I keep on saying they're forgotten. I don't think they're necessarily forgotten, but like some unloved tech growth names and software stocks just kept on popping up on my screen, and they were getting a lot of buying coming in on what was kind of a rough week for the market. I have a few of them here that are looking really good right now, and you'll probably recognize some of these names. Here's IoT, Samsara, coming out of a flag, I would say, right here, and trying to push higher. This thing's kind of up in the stratosphere, and it's been, a tough trader, meaning that like we get these big rallies and then these drops right here. But overall, this thing has been just crushing it so far this year. What's it up? It's up 90% year over year. It's up almost 50% year to date. This is one of those names where it's kind of tough to buy. You kind of got to grab the tiger by the tail, but at the same time, it's really delivering. What's another one? UPST. This is one of those names that has been absolutely insane on some of these rallies where you have these huge moves that were just given back. It looks like it's trying to firm up right here now. And again, it's shaping up a lot better than some of the other stocks out there that took big hits at the end of September or early October. You can see right here, calendar flips to October, took a big hit, and then immediately everybody bought it back. So October 1, down like 6%. Nope. shot right back up, and now it's crawling higher again today, up like more than 2.5%. Messier chart, but at the same time, this is one of those stocks that's nowhere near its highs. We can go back here and see how big this base is on this thing. I mean, this was, I think, a pretty decent pandemic trader, I would say. And we are nowhere near $400. It doesn't need to go back to $400, but I think it's repairing a lot of the damage here. It's starting to turn up. It's starting to hang out well above that 200-day moving average. This could be an interesting looking play if it continues to firm up here and breaks above 44. What's another good one? Maybe you have a case of the Mondays. Here's Monday.com. This is a much cleaner chart right here, but you can see, look at this outperformance on these names right here. What's this one up? It's up 83% year over year.
Here's one where it's like, I hate it, but I hear the name enough. Like, we use Monday.com around. I personally do not, but plenty of people at our company use Monday.com. So it's one of those things that once you get to use it, it's like a management software for projects and whatever. And once you get to use it, it's very easy. And again, it's in a time when 10 years ago, all we did was email. Maybe there was a little instant messaging and email. Then Slack came. And Monday is like a very connected version of Slack. It's like project management software. But I hear that name all the time.
Here's another software stock, CVLT. These are new all-time highs today. It's up almost 5%. It's a little stretched, obviously, but I mean, like, this stuff is starting to catch and starting to break out. What's this up year over year? Probably a lot. Yeah, it's up 130% plus year over year. Pretty darn good. I don't think anybody would scoff at those returns if they were in their accounts right there. Here's a stock you probably haven't heard of. Palantir. Look at this thing extending. I mean, Palantir was, if you remember back when we talked about it earlier this year, I was talking about how tough of a trader it was, meaning, like, you get these big pops and then it tends to give them back. I mean, it does trend higher, but it's super sloppy. And then you see right here, this huge waterfall here into earnings, and now it just hasn't looked back. And it's up to almost $41. I mean, what are we up over the past few months right here? Yeah, so it's up 33% in a month, 140% year to date. That's pretty darn good. So
I'm just saying that one's Paradigm Press has been pounding the table for our friend Palantir. And I know we go back and forth, Connor. This one is tough. I've been in it all along. So I just, as an investor, it's easy once I just got in here and told myself I'm not selling it.
Yeah.
It was easy for me. It was hard for you. Like you say, you got all these different lines and you look back, 6, 12 months. It's so hard to have gotten into it. Right. Because it goes up and shoots down and does all this crazy stuff where it shakes people out, or you just think it's too expensive.
If you remember back in the summer when I was talking about it, I was saying it's just a buy the dip stock. This isn't the one
absolutely
you chase the rips on it. This is a buy the dips name. That's the best way to play it. And like, buying the dips responsibly. I'm not saying that, like, if the thing crashes like 30% a day, it's like, oh, totally buy it. But
except for that one candle right there in July, should have bought that one.
Yeah, I mean,
that wasn't 30%.
That's only at 5%. No, wait, is it more? I got to zoom in on it. I think it's only like 5%. It's not as bad as you think. I guess it was worse because it went down here and tagged the 200-day and then it started rallying again. So yeah, that would have been a good buy right there, even though it was a little scary. But I mean, what a beautiful chart. And also, it's completing this IPO base, I think. We were talking about it, I guess, back in, what was it? Wasn't that long ago. It was in August when it was like toying with that breakout above those swing highs from September of 2021. Well, now it's all the way up here, eating into this area where it peaked out during the old pandemic trading days. This was the pandemic peak for all these speculative stocks in January, February 2021. The rest of the market did glide higher into Q4, but for the most part, all of your crazy traders, back in the GameStop days, they all peaked in January, February. Minus some echo booms later that year. And that's exactly what Palantir did. And now we're back to the scene of the crime right there. I mean, I think some consolidation in this area will set this thing up for another massive breakout probably. And we'll know once it really starts moving into the mid 40s when it's going to go. But
Yeah.
Maybe this becomes a really great trading stock now that it kind of gets out of this post IPO malaise that it had been in for so long, and then it behaves a little bit better. I don't know. We'll see. But
Can you put that one in just 1 year?
this is 1 year right here.
All right, there we go. No, that's year to
You
date.
happy with that?
No, I want
Year
1 year.
to, oh, you want 1 year. Oh,
Yeah,
you want
1 year. Click
exactly?
that little one Y button. That's what I do. All right. I cheat. Okay. So look at that chart. Gunnar, you were with us in Vegas last year for the Paradigm Shift Summit.
Yeah, when Sean talked about it.
Sean Ring,
Yeah.
first speaker on the stage, talked about it. And then when we went through the whiskey bar at the end of the day, everyone was like, hey, give picks or whatever. Palantir. So again, we did all the math and we looked at all the numbers of who did the best. Palantir, out of all the stocks that we mentioned, for sort of like what's going to be the big winner in the next year, Palantir was the winner on that list.
Yeah.
And it was Sean Ring's pick, and that's the chart for it. Buy it at 14, and today it's at 40.
Yeah. Beautiful trade. Beautiful investment.
Yeah. Probably tough to trade. Again, there's probably along that chart, there's probably people that have lost tons of money on options because it's tough. It's not easy to time this thing.
Right.
Timing's never easy, but this one, there's headaches.
Well, that was my main gripe with it, as a trader, not as a stock. I think the idea is solid. I think that and we've talked about this before. I think that if you don't have this on your list of next trillion-dollar companies, you're missing something very obvious.
Oh yeah, where is it? It's like go down. How many billions is it?
It's not even $100 billion company.
Yeah, so it's not even 100 billion. So it'd be a 10x.
But yeah, I think there's just a lot of eyeballs on it. It's not a secret. This is not like hey, I have a ticker you've never heard of. I think a lot of folks that are involved in the markets know about this one. It's been a hedge fund hotel for a long time. At least it definitely was back during the trading bubble, but even more so now. I feel like it's an obvious, really solid play in that space. Speaking of next trillion-dollar companies, what about Uber?
Oh man, you are just and I gotta disclaim, right? Palantir, obviously I said it, but I own some Palantir. Now we're into Uber. I own some Uber.
Yeah, Uber's one of those stocks that I want to buy.
Yeah, I'm on it. We didn't talk about this, and we should, and I want to get your take. We can either do it now or just towards the end of the call, but we've got Tesla Day on Thursday. So 10/10, big robo taxi thing. I think maybe there's a connection to Uber. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's an interesting.
That's a complete guess, right? And me and Gunnar have talked about this. He's like, I don't see it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I think they're going to be big competitors, and I think that's going to be possibly be good for both the stocks, at least in the short term. Uber has Waymo, and I think that I'm seeing more about Waymo, and I'm seeing more about Waymo taxis getting deployed in various cities. I know they're all over California. We haven't seen them in Baltimore yet. But I think it's coming, and I think there's going to be a big battle over it. And I think it's possible that both could win for quite a while. But I think Uber finds itself in a very good spot here. I think the chart's setting up nicely. I think, again, this is another one with Halloween earnings. I think it's going to be right on the 30th. It's the 31st. So yeah, right there.
Ooh.
But this thing was an absolute screamer during the melt up last year. And keep in mind, it topped out right at the beginning of March, right there, around $82, and it looked terrible heading into earnings in August. This thing got hit hard. It immediately got snapped up, and it's firming up right now and looking a lot healthier. Had a rough go of it the last week of September, but is firming up again right here. Fading a little bit today. I don't think this is one of the ones where I need to buy it right now, but it's definitely on my radar. This is a stock that I think is going to do well in the longer term. I'm not talking about it just for a trade. I think it could set up on multiple time frames here. I think if you're a trader, it's going to give you an opportunity to buy when it breaks out of whatever this consolidation, this flag or whatever is, and it might be doing that right now. But I think, as a position trade, maybe something even longer term, I think it's going to if and when this market catches either the end of this month or November, and we start to really melt up into December, I think this is going to be 85 plus, easily break above these former highs right here, and it's going to roll. It has a history of doing this, as you can see right here. And I think the next leg higher is kind of a foregone conclusion, barring some sort of crazy news that gets in the way. Had a question about Credo real quick. And again, here's another tech name that's a tough trader, but looks really good. And looks
I
like,
own Credo.
yeah, I
This
know
is
you own
like this is
Credo.
basically just my portfolio. We're just like going. It's like I don't know.
Well, Holly
I don't
asked
really own, and
about,
let the record state, I don't own a ton of stocks. Like the other one that I'm going to bring up later is Meta. I just started a position in Meta, but it's not many things. Credo, Palantir,
this has been a tough one
Uber,
though. I mean, like I know this has
Meta.
been kind of a nail biter, but I think it's setting up nicely. And again, like it's out here in outer space right now. I mean, like, you know, this thing came onto the market in 22. It broke out of this base, you know, right here, this move above 20, and now we're looking at it in the 30s right here. It's a little bit of a wild ride, but at the same time,
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is a good like white knuckle kind of trader right here. And then some questions about Dell too, real quick before we move on. I think Dell's setting up really nicely. Um, you know, again, this one peaked out during like, you know, like the semi boom times during the first half of the year. You know, a lot of air out of the balloon here, but again, it's finding buyers down here at longer term moving averages. It's setting up again. I think that like if we continue to see like SMH perform well and the Nasdaq firm up here, I think this could be a good, you know, like back in the saddle trade for Q4 heading into the new year. I don't see why it wouldn't do well. I feel like Dell kind of is owning that hardware space. So the AI build out, the AI power build out, all that is the real deal. And I feel like that's, and Enrique and I talked about this over the past few weeks. This feels like a story that we've been talking about in our circles for a long time. That's just now having this watershed moment where it's becoming very obvious to the public that this is going to be a big thing and everybody's going to be jumping on this trend and it could last a long time.
Yep.
All right, Matt. I know what you want to talk about. I know you want to talk about Meta. Is that what you're going to
Yeah,
transition
it's like it's
to?
not politics anymore. I got that out of my system. That I think that, and I will. Never mind. Let me just wrap with the politics thing. Right? You see a little bit of downside China. You see Tesla up. Tesla's the other one that's in my portfolio. You see
Okay.
Tesla up. You see kind of these like Trump-ish trades, and then you add in the other one, and these aren't screaming higher, but they just, they're not going down anymore. And then the other one that I like is Meta. Um, I just have this theory. It's not based on anything huge and overarching. It's just, everyone lives their own life. It's like when me and Gunner, when I would go to Chipotle I mean, I go to Chipotle all the time, but I would just say, oh my gosh, there's been more people at Chipotle or less people at Chipotle in the last 6 months than I've ever seen. And that, again, to me, that's probably not a super scientific way to do things. But with Meta, I know we're spending a lot more money with Meta than we have in a long time. And I think there's something fundamental going on there where I don't know what it is, but you're starting to see Zuckerberg come out a little bit more. He's sort of talking about free speech, talking about, a little bit more Trump leaning, whatever you want to call it. The reason that that is important, and this could make Meta a lot of money, is that I believe deep down Meta, they're faithful app users, the ones that use Facebook, are older conservatives. I don't think that's a secret, but think about it. They don't like big tech.
Right.
All of a sudden, I think Zuckerberg might be realizing this. One, he might just be, sort of changing the way he thinks about the world, maybe seeing what Elon's doing. I don't know, whatever. He's changing the way he sees the world. I think what's happening is, though, they're starting to embrace the fact that that is their base. Their base is older conservatives. So if they actually do that and they open up a little bit more of the floodgates, I think they could have some massive upside. So again, not anything crazy huge, it's just like a wind at their back. It's like a nice position to establish. And this is a tough one to buy right now because you look at it, it kind of looks like it's
Extended, yeah, for
yeah.
sure. But at the
Now
same,
that would be a technical term there being extended, but they announced on the 30th, I think. Um, and that's what I'm looking for. And again, this is the opposite of what Gunner does at the trading desk. I'm kind of looking at earnings and saying, in the last 3 months or, uh, Q3, did they sell more stuff? Did they open up their base? Because we're in a election year. Like this is the time to do it. So maybe they start saying, "Hey, we found a new way to make a lot of money," and they throw a big old number on the books. That
well,
could give them a bump.
and just to add to your fundamental picture there, I don't know where I read it, but over the past couple weeks, everybody's been talking about Zuckerberg's like, he's got his hair long and he's like dressing fashionably and all that stuff. And so there's been a lot of talk about him. And I read some scuttlebutt about how and again, this kind of goes along with your free speech narrative, where he's very unhappy with the decisions that he made back during the election censorship scandal stuff, and he wants to make that right, and he's leaning more toward it being more of a free speech platform. I don't know how much truth there is to that, but I was reading rumors about that, and again, I forget the source exactly, but I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think it kind of jives with like what we're seeing with the stock. And it's especially funny because Meta's name change was a disaster, and that whole PR stunt about, you know, the metaverse and those little cartoon guys,
Yeah.
cartoon Zuckerbergs running around. That was nutty, and it came at the worst possible time. It was the fall of 2021 when they were talking about all that, and then the stock got absolutely obliterated, and now it's right back to its old self again, because it seems like you got a guy like Zuckerberg, and no matter what you think about him, he doesn't miss. Like every time people are like, "This is dumb," he's not going to be able to pull this off. He does in a very spectacular way. There's been a ton of naysayers of Facebook throughout the years, from back in the early days when it was like they can't do mobile. Well, they did mobile really well, and then their demographics aging, which I certainly think is true. I think it is an older demographic. It is a social media dinosaur as much as a dinosaur social media can possibly be.
Yeah.
Um, since we don't
But
have
when
my
it comes to the real
friends there anymore.
estate, like the tile real estate on a phone, I
Yeah,
mean, and I'm in the camp, like you get bored, you check my emails, I check my Slack, and then there's a little Facebook app, it's like and the older generation conservatives, like they're not changing. They're not gonna be like, I should get on to some other thing. Like they're just gonna find that little blue square with a white F on it and click it.
you need that dopamine hit, baby. You know,
Yeah.
give it my
Yeah.
likes. Give it my likes.
If now again, if I could invest in TikTok in an easy way, I'd do that too, because I think it's like even more crack on there. But I just think there's a pivot going on behind the scenes at Facebook that most people are, it's not like it's completely secret. I think it's just kind of happening, but I think it might just be more impactful to their bottom line than people think. So
Here's some inside baseball. Matt will send me TikToks. It's the only time I see TikToks, and I hate clicking on it because I click on it on the computer and I open up the TikTok platform on my desktop, and I'm like, what kind of Chinese spyware am I installing when I click on these TikToks? And it makes me like verify that I'm a human, and then I have to unmute the TikTok, and then it just starts feeding you all these videos. It's too much. I don't like it at all.
half the time it's just that little frog dancing.
Yeah, I don't even understand what's happening on there. I'm not that old. Am I
Yeah.
too old for this? Like I don't know. It's not good. It can't be
Why don't
good.
we? I mean, if people want to write in again, you can like on the Facebook theme. We got the comments open. I mean, is Facebook something that you use? Do you like it as a stock to trade? Are you in it as a stock to trade? I mean, write in, let us know. I see some other comments on there about Tesla. One of the comments from, let me make sure I'm calling out. Yeah, from Doug. And Jeffrey, I believe, agreed with him, right? Yeah. Is that Tesla is starting to be sort of like a decentralized energy and computing play, which
Yeah,
is also
absolutely.
absolutely true.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't think. Yeah, I think like here's how it goes. This is my fundamental analysis, if that makes any sense, of how people talk about Tesla. When Tesla stock is going down, everybody comes out and says, it's just a car company. And then when Tesla stock goes up, everybody says it's not a car company. It's, it's software, it's all this other stuff. So I think the fundamental story either gets panned or it expands depending upon how the stock is doing. Um, we've been talking about this one for a long time. I talked with Doug about this breakout as it was starting to happen back at the end of June. And we're talking about 100% givebacks today. Look at this one. Like breaks out, incredible breakout right there. Feels the need to go back down here and shake out everybody. This is during the yen panic. These are the yen panic lows right here. And then it gets bought right back up again. And it's consolidating pretty nicely. It feels like to me, and I know we have the October 10th event. Gosh, it's already October 8th. I know we have the event coming up, but it feels like for me, 260 is the big number on Tesla right here. If we can get like higher lows here, I know we have an inside day, and the stock was down quite a bit. It was down almost 4% yesterday, but it's been swinging all over the place. If we can get this thing to build up toward 260 and it holds this area, then I think it's off to the races again. And I think if we can close above 260 for multiple days and get a weekly close above 260, that we're going to get a 300 test sooner rather than later.
Yeah,
Just how I see
I
it.
agree. And again, who knows? Like on the event, does the event make Tesla scream higher? I
I
doubt
don't
it
know.
unless they do something
I
game
don't know.
changing. I think it's more impactful for the other players. It's sort of where Elon points the arrow and says, "Hey, here's where we're going with self-driving or AI or cars being batteries and computer stations that can just kind of go wherever." Because I agree, like Doug said it in those comments. Imagine, right? A natural disaster happens, just roll a bunch of like, I don't know, Tesla batteries into town or something. I mean, that's a little bit crazy, but or if you need computing power, that's a lot more
Starlink.
understandable. You
I
just
mean,
roll a bunch of Teslas into town, and all of a sudden you can crank energy or crank compute somewhere else. Gunnar, we should look this up. Speaking of, let's see, I got endless material. Speaking of TikTok videos that I've sent you
oh,
and electric vehicles, what does
Rivian.
Rivian's chart look like?
It looks bad.
Okay.
Um,
Well, this will be an outlier then. Yeah, that looks horrible. There
yeah,
was a video though from and again, horrible things happening in Asheville, right?
yeah.
Asheville, not Nashville. Um, with the hurricane that went through there, that is an area that just was not, God didn't make it for that much rain. But one of the crazy things that came out was this Rivian that just like basically like went down a river or something, got moved and just caked in mud. And someone was like, just try and start it. Guess
They're
what?
apparently waterproof. Who knew?
Guess what? That Rivian just looks like a big pile of dirt. And it's just,
Yeah.
the guy drove it around.
Yeah, it looks like a lump
Well,
of clay, and then he drives
now
it
the
charger.
the
Now the stock
chart looks like a big pile of dirt too.
yeah. I mean, like I think this was a decent looking breakout. It just didn't work. I mean, it just didn't work out. It came back down and failed. Like I don't know what's going to happen with Rivian, the company. I think it's interesting. I like the idea of their vehicles. I don't own an electric vehicle, but I like the idea of Rivian vehicles. I think they're interesting. I don't know what's going to happen with. I know it has that big joint venture with VW. I don't know if that's going to help it or hurt it
Yeah.
in the long run. And I don't know how much. I'm way behind on the fundamentals of this one, but I don't know how much
Yeah, I don't think they exist
Amazon
too much.
vehicles has been scaled back. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, it looked great for a hot second there and looked like it might be coming out of that base, but I mean, it's gotten the smackdown uh, big time here, and I'll have to read up on it a little bit more, but it's definitely off my radar. I mean, I think it would be most excellent if it can hold this $10 area,
Yeah,
just
I
to
mean,
keep it from like finding a new lows there. But you can see here, this base is nowhere close to getting the right side built up. This is just a stock that's moving down. The car business is a hard business, and I think
yeah.
like going back to everything we know about it, I mean, like GM and Ford have a difficult time in it, and I think Rivian might have a slog. I think that's the safe bet. So I mean, like as far as like stocks like this go, I think Tesla is a much better bet because it's not just purely trading on the vehicle market. right there. So that's my take on that. But I'm gonna do an awkward change of subject right here on you right
We
now,
got
since
10 minutes. Do it, dude. We
we're
need some
talking
top
generally tech
trades.
stuff. What is going on with Bitcoin, and are we going to go back and test those highs? Um, I've been watching Bitcoin pretty closely. I don't watch a lot of other crypto. Here you'll like this. This is some hardcore fundamental crypto analysis here from me. You'll love this, Matt. So I have Coinbase on my phone, um, and I have like random alerts set, and uh, I judge crypto sentiment overall by how many alerts I'm getting about coins I don't know about that are going up a lot. So if I get a bunch of Coinbase alerts on my phone that say like, hey, this little altcoin or whatever is up 7%, and then a bunch of other ones start coming in, and even some of the more well-known ones like, hey, Solana is up 10% over the last 24 hours. I'm like, okay, something's happening. Like, the speculators are out and about frolicking in crypto land. So I better see what's going on. I've gotten a few of those lately, I've noticed over the weekend. So I don't know if the weekend traders, I don't know if we can call them pajama traders. Is that even fair? But the pajama crypto traders have been out and about sporadically. Not It hasn't been sticking so much, but they have been creeping in there and buying their little coins up. So I'm interested to see if Bitcoin can survive this kind of ugly 2-day drop that kicked it back down to 60K, because it's been slowly building off of there. Can this thing get back into the mid 60s? Because I think, if we can get back up here, there's a chance that this thing really starts ripping and we get back into the 72, 73 range. And from there, like, we could get a quick test of those highs and maybe some quick consolidation there. And then who knows? Maybe all the people talking about Bitcoin 100K by the end of the year are right. And it just is going to be a rocket ship from there. I'm not counting on that. But I do think it looks a lot better than it did, obviously, back in early September. I think it's always going to be a tricky trade. It's always going to be one of those where it's like, oh, hey, look, it's poking out above those swing highs from August, and it's like, yeah, guess what? Now it's going to go down $10,000 in 2 days. And as soon as it shakes out those weak hands, it starts building up higher again. It looked really good earlier yesterday too, and then it faded into the afternoon. It was looking good on Sunday night when I looked at it. Sunday night, it was creeping back into the 63K range. I think that this is the spot if you're feeling bullish on crypto, especially Bitcoin. I think this is the area right here where you start nibbling at it for a potential end of year run. Because I think once it starts going, it's going to be tough to catch on to. And I know that too, if you're thinking about crypto, MicroStrategy is looking really, really good right here, and it's attacking those March highs. Look at that, So is this leading the way for us here? Is this saying like, hey, like we're really gonna start running? I'm guessing it might need to consolidate right here, but like, I mean, this is a de facto like crypto pure play right here, and it's been on a hell of a run since the beginning of September and hasn't pulled back nearly as much as Bitcoin. So what's going on? I think that's super interesting. So I'm keeping an eye on that. Oh, and also, obviously, the most important crypto to buy right now is Harry Potter Obama Sonic 10 Inu. Is that how you say it? Whatever the meme one is that I just heard about today.
Wow.
I see. This is like, I think we need to hire an intern who's in like 8th grade to like help us figure out what the hell's going on with the meme coins or whatever. Because this is like, I'm way over my head. Even reading that, I felt silly. But that's the coin everybody's been talking about. So
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, like a group. We get a group of people, like little kids, that just like, hey
Yeah.
guys, which one of these you like?
Right.
Yeah,
We
that's
have a meme group. They're like 8th grade
yeah.
boys, and we keep them in the conference room, and we just like let them play video games. And then every once in a while we go in there and we ask them questions about memes, and then they tell us which little crypto to buy.
It's a scary world we're heading into. The
That's not a
good
bad
part is,
idea
I
though,
mean, and
really. Why
again, I
don't we
don't,
do it?
yeah, I don't know if this is good or bad, but like you said, like with Kamala sort of coming a little bit to the middle, I mean, both candidates are pro Bitcoin. They seem like they're both pro Bitcoin. So, but that's kind of known as well. So it's all the stuff's kind of baked into the pie. So it's but you know, I'd still like the idea, and I like how you said it too. At some point, we might just blink and Bitcoin's going to be at 100K.
Yeah, it feels like it. I mean, maybe it won't hit 100K this year, but that would be a hell of a rally if it did. I mean, that'd be a face ripper for sure. But I think it's possible that we do get, we do get a move like that starts at some point in the next couple months. Um, if it doesn't, then I think we're just going to be in this purgatory of a chop that we've been in for forever.
Yeah.
Just to put a bow on some of the other things we talked about today with some of these sharp givebacks. I know we've been like all over the place talking about stuff that's working, stuff that's not working. And there's been these crazy rallies in like China and energy and stuff like that. And then we get some big givebacks today. Silver is doing the same thing. Silver's down 4% today. It's getting shellacked right here. And I see that happening. I'm not bearish on it yet because if we look at the miners aren't down nearly as much. There's gold miners, and I know we have an SILJ play. Silver's down 4%, and the miners are down 1.5. Like, I think that tells us something that like we're just in a little bit of volatility here, and dealing with a hard reset. I'm not like running scared from these trades just yet. I think this is just a little bit of volatility we're gonna have to deal with, a little bit of October surprise that we're dealing with in these moves right here. And then, Matt, this one's for you. It is 11:56 a.m.
Mhm.
I don't know if you're thinking,
Ooh, I know where we're going.
I don't know if you're thinking about lunch right now, but here's a stock. I don't know if you've heard of this place before, but I'm gonna type it in.
Yeah, come on, man. You know I've heard about Texas Roadhouse.
Look at Texas Roadhouse coming out of a bull flag right here, above 179, breaking out today. Is that a coincidence? I don't think so. Beautiful
There are
looking.
only a few places in life that make me happy. And again, Chipotle's not, I just really like Chipotle. I'm not happy when I'm inside the Chipotle. I'm not like, oh my gosh, I just feel incredible joy. When I'm in a Texas Roadhouse, I feel very happy. I'm just very content. They're like throwing rolls at you. They got
Rolls.
some beers
Rolls.
on tap. Their steaks are good and cheap. Like, if
Yeah.
you're from somewhere that doesn't have a Texas Roadhouse, sorry, it's
Do
great.
you, do you think that Texans eat at Texas Roadhouse, or do you think they're offended by it? They think it's like,
Yes, I've heard this. I was kidding around. I was like, do they even have them in Texas? And they do, and people like them there too.
see, I would have thought it'd be like Australians going to Outback Steakhouse. They're like, this is a big joke. Why are you guys joking on our culture with your Outback Steakhouse? It's the same deal. We're like it's just a caricature of Texas, or maybe that's just how Texas is.
Actually, look at that chart. It's kind of like a machine.
It is. I'm telling you, it's a good looking chart. A lot of these casual dining places are looking pretty decent these days. So
And again, I don't know, like I have no clue about their margins or anything, but when you go in there, it's just not that expensive. Like when you compare it to like the rise in prices of Chipotle and
yeah,
McDonald's and all these other things, you go to Texas Roadhouse, you're like, all right, we're gonna get two sides and a whatever.
that's hard to do these days. Everything's expensive.
Good,
So, yeah,
tasty.
pretty incredible.
Any other bowl economy, any other lunch spots that we need to cover?
I mean, I haven't looked at some of these in a while.
Mm.
We could look at Kava, Mediterranean Chipotle, blasting up.
Oh,
Look at that.
oh,
Knows it's
well,
lunchtime. These things
well.
are screaming, man. This stock is getting way too expensive, which is why it's still going up. So there you go. There's a fundamental analysis on after that. What's Sweet Green up to? Same thing. Look at that. That's a beautiful chart. Up
Oh my
8% today.
All right, you ready? And I mean, it's the same as Sweet Green. Put in Shack.
So, ooh, look at that chart.
Dude, this is
Another good
crazy.
one.
Software and these food charts that we're looking at seem very, very interesting here. And again, I was going to say that while you were talking about software, but that's why I love listening to you and coming to these calls, especially those sort of like rotational or the way that you screen, you find things before other people are seeing them in the way that you look at it. But software looked really good, but some of these look very interesting. They're not breaking out as much, but like they're coming back to very important levels.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting stuff happening in the markets. Like, and And just to wrap up everything we've been talking about, since we have about a minute here, I do think, a little bit of volatility creeping into the market here. Um, you know, the VIX was creeping a little bit higher here. This is your August yen panic right here, and we've been creeping higher on the VIX since late September. I'm not super concerned about the overall situation with the markets just yet. I think this is going to be the time of year where some things get a little spooky. It is spooky season, and people start getting worried about some of the macro stuff out there, and we start to see some volatility in different parts of the market, and we might even start to see like some of those days where nobody wants to buy anything. But I think ultimately, if we can survive these next few weeks, that we're going to be in melt up season, and it's going to be we're going to be spoiled for trades, and we're going to really need to hunker down and be buying all these beautiful breakouts as they happen. And the reason I say that is because even when the market's shaky, again, like you said, everything I've been screening for and looking for some of those outliers and some of those stocks that are outperforming, they're starting to show up on a more consistent basis. And we're starting to see, these breakouts in software, like we talked about, and again, it's breaking out again today, above 90, breaking out above those highs right there. These stocks are on the move right now, and the rest of the market's going to figure that out eventually and start to firm up and move higher too. So I'm ready to take advantage of this stuff. And if we can survive, a little blip here and there, and then we get into melt up season, lift off time.
Yep. I like it. Plenty of stuff to watch here. A lot of money sloshing around, a lot of question marks on the election, but I think we're starting to get, the outlook's starting to get a little bit more clear, and we'll find out. And both candidates, I think the market's okay with both of them. So if that's the case, now's the time to start setting up trades, having the right mentality. Gunnar, I believe we'll be back next Tuesday. We're going to be at 11 o'clock again. I think Enrique's back. He's traveling, but he's going to have some new takes on things as well. So we'll be ready to see everyone then. I'll be in the chat and in the comments. I'm keeping an eye on things. So we appreciate everybody in the comments, everybody that wrote in, Doug, Jeffrey, Patrick, Holly. Great talking with you guys, chatting it up. Gunnar, we'll see you next week. Thank you for everything.
Sounds good.
See you, everybody.